Hey, this is Trevor at Stone Death, and this video is about the debut full-length album on Profound Lore Records by the band Warp Chamber, Implements of Excruciation. Firstly, I'd like to just show this off because it's super cool. My new Frozen Soul long sleeve. Check that shit out. Dope ass design by Shogoth Kinetics, as you can find them on Instagram if you're there. This shirt comes from fucking Holy Mountain Printing. A lot of cool shit there, so check that out. This episode's bad jokes, awkward cuts, and momentary lapses in my ability to proficiently speak the English language. Brought to you by Amherst Sour Diesel, which is upside down. Fuck, here it is. What the hell is Amherst? I don't know. It's just sour diesel to me. Sounds good. There we go. I don't know why I'm covering it. There's no wind in here. I'm indoors. Alright, so Implements of Excruciation came out around the end of March of this year on Profound Lore Records. And Warp Chamber was formed in the year 2016 right here in the Pacific Northwest, and they play sci-fi themed death metal. Sci-fi. Their only previous release being the 2018 demo cassette tape dealio called Abdication of the Mind. Cool shit. Firstly, let's look at the album cover here, which was designed by Dan Weller, or if you're on Instagram, that's Oozing Death Art. And it's a very in-depth and very detailed drawing of a room full of stuff. Strange technological type equipment, maybe a control room in a spacecraft thing. I really don't fucking know. There's all sorts of display monitors and tubes and wires and panels and buttons and strange alien contraptions that I can't really fucking name. There's this fluid looking junk coming out of the fucking large segmented mechanism in the middle here, and I'm not sure if it's some sort of fuel or if blood make the warp chamber go. There's a whole bunch of extra artwork in the open up and the insert in the inside, which, I'm not really going to get into because it's a whole bunch more than I need to get into for this review, really, but it's kind of a reason why I picked this album up on LP, on a big vinyl, so, it's bigger, I can see all the little details, and the gatefold's going to be really nice with all the shit in there. Yeah, but that's not here yet, so I can't show you. Too bad. Anyway, onto the album. The first thing I want to mention is that there's actually only 2 new songs on this album. 2 of them, Abdication of the Mind and Harvesting the Life Force of a Crumbling Orb, were both previously released on the demo, also called Abdication of the Mind, that little cassette tape from 2018. So realistically, there's only about just under 15 minutes of new material on this album, which is a bit of a bummer, but who am I to look a gift horse in its mouth, right? Warp Chamber is yet another kick-ass death metal band out of the Pacific Northwest who's got a penchant for dredging up the classic tropes of the genre made popular by bands out of the 80s and 90s. In particularly the American and most especially the Finnish scenes being their influences. Over its fairly brief 4-track lifespan, this album touches on all the old school, groovy, bludgeoning bits from like Suffocation or Morbid Angel, but also the rough tonal qualities and the mid-paced barrages of the Finnish groups like Convulse or Rippikoulu. If what you're craving is an absolutely absurd amount of riffage, then Warp Chamber is absolutely essential listening, because they pile it higher than the guy at the restaurant waiting to tell the waiter to stop grating the cheese over his plate of spaghetti until all the other patrons in the building are staring in an awkward silence. Is comparing this album to cheese a solid metaphor? Probably not. But my point is that there are riffs aplenty. The track Shadows of Long Forgotten Terror plays out several iterations or evolutions of really just 2 main riff ideas throughout the 2 halves of the song, whereas Harvesting the Life Force of a Crumbling Orb plays more in a cyclical fashion, where it starts with one sort of idea and then plays out a whole other bunch of non-related little tricks and whirly things, and then ends on the same sort of connecting ideas it started on, making full circle. Abdication of the Mind, although it was one of those previous release tracks, makes a really good opener for this album, because it sort of touches on all the little working pieces of the whole before you get into it, more than some of the later tracks actually take the time to flesh them out. Like my favorite track on the album, which is the closer, Exalted and Chthonic Blasphemy, which hits a little closer to that almost technical / progressive type thing that like maybe Demilich had going on. It hits that vibe. I think it might have been a really smart move to put what's probably some of the more memorable riffs on the album right on the closing track. It's a really strong finish for what's really a brief experience and only 4 tracks. Even though some of them run a little bit long, but it is still fairly brief. I think it still runs under half an hour, if I'm right. If I wanted to throw out a few more modern references, I might say that this was close to a blood incantation stripped of all the cosmic psychedelia and replaced with pragmatic barbarity. Or even Tomb Mold, just because they're both so drenched in that finished sound, kind of like if you'd scooped up Floridian Death by its heels and dipped it headfirst in a Helsinki drainpipe. In regards to the sci-fi theme label thing that I see toted around next to the band's name on most of the social media where I read it about it, musically there aren't really any elements to speak of that represent that theme. Instrumentally, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. It's not really there. Really, other than the artwork, which, I fucking covered a minute ago, the only place you're going to find true science fiction influence in this music is in the lyrics. And it's kind of neat. Each track is sort of like a little short story of cosmic horror. And, you're going to have to read it for yourself to know that. You wouldn't obviously know from listening to the album. Most death metal is indecipherable as it is, but the vocalist on this album is completely just gargles and snarls and wet throat noises. I want to use the word moist. There's plenty in there about celestial deities and eldritch blood rituals on deep space alien temples and fucking whatnot. And the thematic elements are there. You just have to do a little digging, because other than, like I said, the artwork, it's not readily apparent to the first time you listen to the album, or the second or the third, because it's in the lyrics, which you're not, this isn't a fucking sing-along, so you're not going to be reading it with it at the bottom. With their debut full-length album, Warp Chamber has risen from the ooze like a horrid and chthonic cryptid, ready to slither its way directly into your heart, and your liver, and your stomach, and your lungs, and your brain, and all of your other vital organs. And remember, in space, no one can hear you scream, or play death metal at an appalling volume. Luckily, we live on Earth, a planet with an atmosphere where we can use our ears to hear sounds. My point being is that Warp Chamber and their debut album is a collection of sounds that you need to fucking hear. Case closed. That's it for my review of the album by Warp Chamber. Now is the part where I make a couple extra album recommendations at the end. I'm going to take a dab, though, first. Today's special is a little Tahoe sherbet. I sure as hell don't know what the sherbet's like in Tahoe, but I'd like to find out. Not that you can fucking read that. Jesus. Who cares? Fuck. Okay, well, my first recommendation is for the album Haunted by Cruelty by Sentient Divide. This album came out back in February of this year, and the band, they play a little bit melodic, a little bit blackened, all fucking badass death metal, right from my neck of the woods. These guys are from Spokane, Washington, which, I was very late to finding out about them, so I'm a little embarrassed. But whatever, I know now. Fucking Haunted by Cruelty, check that one out. Ooh. My next recommendation is a really cool one. It's a Monument to the Dead by Coffin Rot. This one actually came out in October of last year, and is some real kick in the teeth, old school style death metal out of Portland, Oregon. And it's just risk galore, tons of gore, and loads of fun. So it's actually one of my favorites from last year overall. Yeah, another cool one to check out. And that's it for my review. All the links will be down below, so you can check out the Warp Chamber album and both of my recommendations, all Pacific Northwest shit today. So thanks for watching. Hit the fucking subscribe button and make sure you come back next time.